Hi, everybody, and welcome to OneScreen's first metrics-based webinar. And with us today is Kym Frank. Kym Frank is a friend and an advisor of OneScreen. She has over 25 years of experience in both the media and audience research. Why is this important? Well, when you're talking about a lot of different kinds of media, and we have this idea that measurement is so easily figured out with radio and television and everything. And she has a lot of data to show us why that might not always be the case, because she has experience on the media channels, publisher side, the agency side, and the supplier side. So we're really excited to have her come here today and talk to us about amplifying television advertising with out of home. And our next one, she's going to be talking about amplifying radio advertising with out of home. And we're going to continue to leverage her expertise and her super brain to be able to educate all of you. So thank you, Kym, for joining us today.
Thank you, Jean. Super appreciate the time and really excited about some of the data and insights we're going to be talking about today. So again, I am Kym Frank. I am currently the global CxO of Motionworks. Motionworks is a bunch of population intelligence experts, and we do mobility solutions. We're partnered with OneScreen. We also work very closely with Geopath in the United States and Kym in Canada and a number of other clients. So thanks so much. Today, I'm going to be talking about television and how television and out-of-home can really work well together. When we're talking about linear television, it's mostly consumed inside of your home. There are cases where you're watching it in a bar or a restaurant, but for the most part, you're watching television at home. And when you're not at home, that's when you're being exposed to out-of-home. So the two channels really, really do work very well together. So to get started, let's just talk a little bit about ad spend. So television ad spend has been declining. When you look at the projections from Group M, we can see that they're going down, but it's still a monumental investment. Out of home in the pink on the bottom, you can see is on a trajectory up. When we look at the two side by side, in 2014, for every $10 that television was making, out of home was making $1. Projections by Group M say that by 2027, for every $10 television's making, out of home is making $2. So it's still a big channel. There's still a lot of money being spent there. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for out of home to not just carve out part of those dollars for the channel, but also to make television work better for advertisers. We don't have to be competitors. We can be friend-petitors, or we could practice co-opetition. Certainly, we do want some of those television dollars, but we can also show that we can work really well with other channels. Some of the biggest advertisers in out-of-home are some of the channels we compete with. When you look at the dollars being spent by television and online and social networks, they spend a lot of money in our channel, and they can often be our friends and not our competitors. So I do want to talk a little bit about a study that was conducted by the Advertising Research Foundation and Analytic Partners. So they did a study a few years ago where they looked at the impact of advertising on more than one channel at a time. So they did a study where they adjusted 3,200 actual campaigns that had run across channels, and they did an analysis of how much ROI increases when you add additional platforms to your media mix. So when you added a second platform to that first platform, it went up 19%. A third platform went up 23%, then 31%, and then 35%. So having multiple channels, multiple platforms for your advertising campaign to run on really makes a huge impact when it comes to ROI. Interestingly enough, when they looked at those 3,200 campaigns, they found that the bulk of them were only running on one or two platforms. So 29% of those campaigns were running on one platform, and another 31% were running on two platforms. So when you're having conversations with advertisers who are maybe spending in just one or two channels, it really makes a big impact if they add out of home into that mix. So that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. So television is certainly facing some challenges. We're going to talk about 3 of those. The first, fragmentation. The second, cord cutting. And the third one, audience bias. So let's talk about fragmentation. I don't know how many of you are as old as I am, but when I was a kid, there were approximately 12 television networks that we could watch. We had a slider. Sometimes if you got the slider in the right spot between 2 channels, you could get a Philadelphia network. But for the most part, there were only 12 channels. That is not the case anymore. Fragmentation is happening across television, not a big surprise, but this might be a surprise. While most households are getting approximately 190 channels, they're only watching 15. On top of that, they're primarily watching 4 or 5, and the other ones are some they just sample. For the most part, people aren't watching the networks that they're subscribing to. That said, people are watching all different networks. So it's not like we're all watching the same 5 or 15 channels. Everyone is watching something different. So it's really, really hard to reach audiences with television. There's this company called Simulmedia, and I love the work that they do. They talk about trying to flatten out the frequency bias that happens in television. And here's a really good example of why. So when we talk about the reach by frequency of exposure of television advertising, they took a look at a bunch of campaigns for audiences 18 to 49 years old. So this was 28 national advertisers across 5 categories, and they took a month of their spend. When they looked at that, they found that 26% of audiences 18 to 49 were not exposed to the ads at all. 12% were exposed once, 26% were exposed 2 to 5 times, 14% were exposed 6 to 10 times, and 22% of those adults 18 to 49 were exposed 11 or more times. That sounds great, right? Except when you look at what happens to the ROI. So the first exposure to that ad campaign on television has the greatest impact on ROI, 5.7% versus the unexposed. Those folks who are exposed 2 to 5 times, up 4.4% versus 1 exposure. Those people who were exposed 6 to 10 times actually had a negative impact. So their conversions went down. And even further when they were exposed 11 or more times. So there is an ideal point at which you can maximize the impact of your campaign. But if you go too far, it starts to result in negative results. So maybe shifting some budget out of television to reduce that frequency can really help. Let's talk about the next challenge. This is cord cutting. I bet a bunch of you all are cord cutters. We are not, but only because my husband really likes the Yankees. So we still subscribe to satellite, but that is really only for his baseball fix. But cord cutting is a growing phenomenon across the country. You know, if we talked about it 5 or 10 years ago, it was very much a millennial thing that was happening, but millennials aren't even all that young anymore. A lot of them have children and you know, are adults now, and that phenomenon is now happening across all age groups. This is not a young person's phenomenon. When we look at the actual numbers, you can see how 1 out of every 2 households approximately is now a cord cutter. This is according to Moffett-Nathanson. The total penetration of traditional pay television in the United States is at 51.9% at the end of Q1. So that's about 1 out of every 2 households is now a cord cutter. So certainly those people are not being reached by traditional television ad spend. Finally, let's talk about this last obstacle that's facing television: TV audience bias. So I started my career in television, and and that was a long time ago, and it kind of feels like the amount of time people spend watching television, as reported by Nielsen, hasn't really gone down all that much. In fact, they're still reporting that the average American watches 3.5 hours of live or time shifted TV a day. I honestly cannot remember the last time I had 3.5 hours to watch that much television. So, I'm really starting to think, who are these people who have this much time? Well, there is an inherent age bias going on here. So if you look at this by time spent watching television by age, we can see the average 18 plus is 3.5 hours. The average adult 65 plus is 6.5 hours. So if you think about how much longer people are living now, it starts to make sense that the older you get, the more television you're watching, which is skewing that average up so much. But look at those 18 to 34-year-olds. They're watching less than an hour of television a day, less than an hour. So when we talk about 3.5 hours of television viewing, it's really 1 hour or 6.5 hours. Even those 35 to 49 are still watching just over 2 hours of television a day, much different than their older counterparts. When we talk about reach, this is where it gets real. The reach of television right now is at 77%, but for adults 18 to 34, it's 56% in a week. That means approximately 1 out of every 2 adults 18 to 34 isn't watching live or time-shifted television at all. That is a huge missed opportunity, but out of home is in an awesome position to maximize TV ad spend by filling in the gaps that we just discussed. So how can you target audiences missed by television? So we already kind of chatted about logically it makes sense, right? If you're at home, you can be watching television. If you're outside of the home, you're being exposed to out of home. Makes sense. But there's some really great data ways that we can explore to figure out how to reach those people. So the first would just be like to look geographically at what's happening across the country when it comes to cord cutting. So looking state by state, you can see the dark red areas are areas that are more likely to not be subscribing to cable and satellite. Could be income-based, could just be decisions, but it does start to look a little bit different when we look locally. So this is a county map. Those red areas are areas where people are more likely to be cord cutters. So certainly if you're looking to amplify a television campaign, you could look geographically at certain counties or zip codes or DMAs that have a propensity to have cord cutters. By the way, if anybody needs any information, you're always welcome to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you. But there are some other ways that you can target at an even more granular out-of-home specific level to make sure that you're reaching these people. So for instance, there is a target in the Geopath Insight Suite that is specific to this category. The type of TV service the household subscribes to, no service. And you can see when you're looking at this that just the roadside bulletins. So I'd only pulled roadside bulletins that are audited by Geopath. We know there's tons of other formats out there and non-Geopath audited stuff, but I didn't want to overload the system. So anyway, we can see that just these roadside billboards are reaching 16 billion impressions in an average week just to cord cutters. And you can see that index is 102. Might not sound high, but if you think about it, this is nationally. So out of home just has a propensity for reaching people who have cut the cord because they're not in their homes as much watching television. So if you started to look specifically at different pieces of out-of-home inventory, you can find some that really, really over-index in reaching non-TV viewers so that those TV ads can extend their reach using out-of-home. There's another target in the Geopath Insight Suite that I really like, the TV quintile target. So a quintile is basically, they take the whole population and they divide it into 5 segments from low to high based on a behavior. So they have divided TV viewing quintiles by the duration of time that you watch television. So we have the heaviest TV quintiles, and certainly if you have a brand that you work with who is looking to reach TV viewers, use that TV quintile first, heaviest. That's a great way to reach people who are watching television. However, if you want to amplify the reach of an existing television advertising campaign, using that bottom quintile, TV quintile 5th, lightest, those are the lightest television viewers. And you can use the Geopath Insight Suite to find out-of-home inventory that really over-indexes against that target. I just pulled the Atlanta DMA, that's the headquarters of my company. Just looking at the Atlanta DMA, we can see that all of the out-of-home inventory over indexes at 106. That's a pretty big index for, you know, a large geography like that. Overall, across the entire Geopath Insights suite, the index against this target is 103. So we can see that out-of-home is really great at reaching non-TV viewers. And finally, I just wanted to talk a little bit about those young viewers that we talked about, where only 1 out of every 2 is watching TV in an average week. Young adults drive more miles in an average year than older adults. It's 1.6 thousand miles more. So definitely they're on the road, they're on the move. Those younger people that are being missed by television, out of home is an ideal platform to reach them. Again, when you go into the Geopath Insight Suite, you can just pull audiences 18 to 34 and see there's a massive over index, 105. Younger people are exposed to out of home at a higher rate than their older counterparts. They're not watching TV. It's a perfect channel. It's a match made in heaven. So that's really the long and the short of what I wanted to share with you all today. Out of home and television work perfectly together. I am Kym Frank. These are all the ways that you can reach me. I'm at Kym Frank on Twitter. So please reach out if you have any specific questions, or you want more information, or you need some help, or you want to know what's the cord cutting penetration in my county. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. Thank you so much to Jean and OneScreen for hosting me today. I hope I didn't talk too fast.
No, you were great. Anybody can always slow you down if they wanted to. This information was outstanding. I've heard it a couple of times, and every time I hear it better. This is one of those things that you want to hear again and again to reinforce the concept of how 1 + 1 can definitely equal 3. One thing I didn't state in your introduction is how you were the global chief experience officer at Geopath. You tripled their membership, you hosted record-breaking conferences, and you measured new place-based out-of-home advertising format. So you did such an awesome job, and nobody knows Geopath as well as you do. And I have been certified. I've gone through the entire process, and it is amazing to me how much information is out there to be able to make better decisions. But you took a really deep dive, Kym, and we totally appreciate it. Looking forward to the one on radio. That's going to be awesome. Can't wait for that one.
I can't wait. You know, Geopath was my first real out-of-home job, and I fell in love with the people, and I fell in love with the channel, and I'm really very grateful to be working here. And I think there is so much opportunity out there for out-of-home, and I hope that I can help people see some share.
We really thank you for being an advisor to OneScreen.ai, and thank you again for offering this excellent information today.
Thanks so much, Dean.